We then get to Obi-Wan and Uncle Owen. And we've already talked about this a little bit. Owen telling Obi-Wan to stay away. It's fascinating. I'm really interested to see this dynamic play out. As we talked about already, it's something that is 45 years in the making. We know that these two don't really like each other. Owen says that's just that man's just a crazy old wizard. He calls Obi-Wan crazy, and then Obi-Wan, the way he says, that's your uncle talking. He says uncle with such derision. He's like, that dude sucks. Don't listen to him. Uncle wouldn't allow it because he's a dick. That's the subtext of what Sir Alec is saying.
Yeah.
But I'm really interested to see this play out because, from Owen's point of view, you can understand what he's saying. You can absolutely understand what he's saying. He doesn't want this guy to take his son away. And that's something that I hope we get to see in this show, that Owen and Beru do really love Luke and that they really care for his well-being and they want what's best for him. Because, we only ever see those characters through Luke's eyes in A New Hope, and it's at a contentious point in their relationship. Luke wants to go to the academy. They don't want him to go. And so he sees them as kind of these old farts keeping him in place, not letting him pursue his dreams. And so I hope we get to see that what they're doing there isn't necessarily an act of cruelty, but that them trying to protect this kid that they do love, that they do think of as their own son, even though he's their nephew, and that they want what's best for him. And at this moment, they just don't think that having him be trained as a Jedi, because clearly answering an age-old question of how much Uncle Owen knew about what happened to Anakin, clearly they know the danger that's out there. And whether Luke falls to the dark side or whether he just gets killed by these three scary looking people that show up on their planet, that's not necessarily what's best for him. Or they may not see it as what's best for him. Even though we as the audience know Obi-Wan is right, the best sort of argument in a movie is where both characters are right. They're both right for different reasons. I think that creates the best sort of conflict and the best sort of character dynamics. And that's something I really hope we get to see between Uncle Owen and old Ben Kenobi.
I definitely think that's happening.
Yeah, I mean, you watch A New Hope, and it's Owen especially is portrayed almost in an antagonistic kind of way, in the sense that he's meant to show what he's like, a physical manifestation of what's holding Luke there, that Luke has a destiny. Luke needs to go out and have adventures and, adventure, excitement, all this kind of stuff.
Just another season.
Just one more season. And Owen is holding him back from that. Even Beru is like, dude, lay off of him. Let him do what he wants. And, that whole dynamic is put in completely new context now, when you can kind of like, you're still like not necessarily on Owen's side, but you're like, he's being a parent. He's not being overprotective. He's being logical. Obi-Wan, you're bad news. you remember what happened last time? You think I'd let that happen again? Like, come on. You definitely understand where he's coming from here. So I love that. Definitely humanizing Owen more and giving him just more to do. He had 5 lines in the entire saga up until this point. Like, it's not a whole lot to go on. So I love that now we're getting more into this character's head, getting these two butting heads, and ultimately we're sympathetic to Obi-Wan, but Obi-Wan made some mistakes. And, Owen knows those mistakes, and so it's not, he's not just being overprotective, it's being logical at this point.
Yeah, and it will just be interesting to see Obi-Wan, or not Obi-Wan, Uncle Owen and Luke and Beru all just at a different point in life. and at different points in their relationship, because a lot gets talked about with Star Wars and fathers and sons, and George Lucas and his relationship with his father, and that gets sort of channeled into the Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader stuff in Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. But I think if you want the most accurate depiction of what George's relationship was like with his own father, is you watch A New Hope and you watch those scenes between Uncle Owen and Luke Skywalker, because Owen is really saying what George's dad was saying to him back in the day, which is, you have to come and take over my stationery business and run that. That's what I need you to do. And George wanted to go off and have his adventure as a race car driver. And that's basically the conversation between Luke and Owen. Luke wants to go be a fighter pilot. He wants to go join the academy. And Owen's like, no, stay on this farm. and that's, you take those scenes between Luke and Uncle Owen and you change the names to George and George Sr., right? Like that's, that's what you get. That's those scenes. So I think to see, like we said, Owen in a different light, Owen in a different perspective, at a point in life where he's not blocking Luke's dreams necessarily, but he's protecting a little kid. Because in a way, he's still fulfilling the same role, which is stopping someone else from accomplishing what they want to accomplish. He's stopping Obi-Wan from training Luke. And so he's still got that role. And ultimately, his motivations are similar, but we might be perhaps more sympathetic to his actions when Luke is 10 years old versus when Luke is 19 years old. He's still a kid in this show versus a young adult in the movie.
The tough thing about raising a child is figuring out when you need to kind of change that approach, when you need to go from protecting to encouraging and enabling in a good way. And so it's tough because Luke's right at that age where he's coming into adulthood in A New Hope, and that shift kind of needs to happen where he needs to be given some more autonomy. But many times parental figures, they don't really notice that and they hold on to it too long, and that kind of leads down a road where the child will go through self-discovery. It's just sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad, and then a lot of that has to do with the influences. Fortunately for Luke, he has the good influence of Leia and Han and Obi-Wan and Yoda in his life to guide him, as opposed to Anakin having the mixed influences of Obi-Wan and Padme, but also Palpatine.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And of course, it also another quick thing to add too. Mm-hmm. It'll be interesting to see parallels between the way that perhaps Luke as a child feels about Owen and how Anakin felt about Obi-Wan and the Jedi.
Yeah, I mean, we see that a little bit in Attack of the Clones, right? Because what does Anakin say to Padme? He's like, it's all Obi-Wan's fault. He's holding me back, right? And that's very much how I think Luke feels towards Owen. So
perhaps Obi-Wan is trying to keep Owen from being the Obi-Wan to Luke that he was to Anakin. And so, in fact, his retort to this might be, yes, but you're now doing to Luke what I did to Anakin.
Mm-hmm.